Good morning. My name is Kristen Song, and I'm Ethan Song's mom. Please remember your son as he was, the ER doctor pleaded with me. I stared at the room where my 15-year-old son Ethan was just pronounced dead. Your son is unrecognizable, even to your eyes, the ER doctor whispered. I was the first to welcome Ethan into this world, and I wanted to be the last to say goodbye. Sadly, I was not allowed in. My beautiful boy was shot in the head with an unsecured gun at his best friend's house. Yet hours before, he sat at the breakfast table and told me about his hopes and dreams. How could this be? Ethan's death was not an outlier. Gun violence is now the leading cause of death for our children, which means your child has a greater chance of being killed by a gun than any other danger facing them. Ethan was killed with our neighbor's unsecured gun, which was stored in a shoebox with the ammunition. Instead of a negligent gun owner being arrested and prosecuted, his 14-year-old son was. This country is criminalizing our children and treating negligent gun owners as the victims. As a person, we have sympathy for the gun owner. I'm sure he didn't mean for his gun to be accessible and kill or injure a child or someone else's child. This tragedy will haunt him as long as he lives. It was an accident, wasn't it? These things happen. This country's sympathy is misplaced. The negligent gun owners are not the victims. The dead and injured children are the victims. We must stop giving negligent gun owners a pass. Unsecured guns are responsible for the majority of teen suicides and unintentional deaths. 76% of all school shooters use an unsecured gun from home or a relative's home. These deaths will not stop until we start holding gun owners responsible. Ethan's death was not an accident. You see, the word accident implies that there was nothing the gun owner could have done to prevent his death. But we know better. The gun owner could have simply locked up his guns. You would think the carnage of our dead children would be enough to change public attitude, but sadly it is not. And that is why Ethan's law is so important to pass on a federal level. Thank you. Mike Song, my better half, will be speaking next.
Who's speaking after me?
Probably Rosa and then me and then...
Okay. My name is Mike Song. I'm Ethan's dad. A bullet flies, a young man dies. He never grows up to live his life. Kiss a girl, find a nice wife, go out with his friends on Saturday night. A bullet flies, a mother cries, she'll never look again into those sparkling eyes. So full of joy, so full of life. Chaos reigns, and freedom dies. I no longer have the freedom to hug my child and to watch the trajectory of his life. That freedom has been stolen from me. Ethan would be 20 years old today, but he's forever 15. He was killed by an unsecured gun in a neighbor's home. Gun safes now open at the speed of a smartphone. America, guns locked up, no Sandy Hook. Imagine that. America, guns locked up, no Parkland, no Michigan school shooting. 40,000 families like ours will not see their children grow up, will not see their husbands or their parents or their brothers or sisters grow up. What does it mean to those families? It's a mountain of pain and a river of bitter, bitter tears, because these deaths could be prevented. Safe gun storage is the least polarizing gun issue that exists today in America. And it's time for Americans to come together for community. Against chaos, to give parents the freedom to see their kids grow up. Ethan's law will be the law of the land, and I believe that because of the tremendous, heroic people who are fighting every day to pass Ethan's law. We saw how hard you worked, Senator Murphy. We saw how hard you worked, Representative DeLauro, the amazing advocate, and Senator Dick Blumenthal. We are so excited to have the mayor of New Haven here at this memorial, at the foot of this mountain. And there is an army forming, an army of advocates who are going to help pass Ethan's law. And these are the leaders of that army, and they're going to do it for love. This law will pass because parents love their children, and people hate to see kids like Ethan die. And I hope and I pray that it will happen soon, but it will happen. I'd like to introduce Representative Rosa DeLauro, who introduced Ethan's law and helped pass it through the House of Representatives. I am slightly furious that that didn't get more attention, that a safe storage bill passed the House of Representatives thanks to the people here with us today.
Thank you, Mike, and thank you, Kristen. You sum it all up, and we're so grateful to the two of you for bringing us together this morning. And once again, you inspire us to continue to do the job that we are tasked with doing. And I feel blessed to be here with all of you today, with the mayor, with my colleagues, Senator Blumenthal and Senator Murphy, and both of you. And we are at the New Haven Botanical Garden of Healing, dedicated to the victims of gun violence. This was created by mothers of gun violence. It's a special place to remember their loved ones. This is a garden, it's a place of hope, it's a place of healing. It is a solemn place. With each new tree and flower planted, mothers are taking positive action to build public awareness of the magnitude of the problem of gun violence, but more importantly, of the heartbreak of gun violence. You walk down this pathway, you see the bricks, each representing a child that was brought into this world with all their hopes and their dreams, aspirations for a beautiful life that have been snuffed out by gun violence. A powerful place. And creation is an extraordinary achievement and a special place to so many. None more than Kristen and Mike Song, who tragically lost their son Ethan nearly 5 years ago after he was killed with an unsecured gun in his best friend's house. We want to say a thank you to Kristen and Mike for welcoming us here. Their advocacy has become the game changer. They took the fight here in Connecticut first, and they passed Ethan's law, which says simply, let's require gun owners to properly secure their guns. They took the fight to our nation's capital, and they helped to pass Ethan's law in the U.S. House of Representatives last June as part of the Protecting Our Kids Act. And when I say help, you have no idea what that means. They literally went door to door. Kristen went door to Democrats, to Republicans, knocking on the door, sitting down, talking about this issue as a public health issue. It's about the safety of our kids. Once again, we are going to introduce Ethan's law. We're going to do that on January 31st, which will mark 5 years since Ethan's death. And I'm proud to say that already this Congress, we have secured in a very few days over 110 co-sponsors. That's ahead of the reintroduction, and that number will climb. And once passed at the federal level, Ethan's law will finally set standards for gun storage, incentivize states to create and implement safe gun storage laws. First and foremost, as I said, this is about child safety. Because just one child lost to accidental gun violence is too many. And our heart continues to break for Kristen and Mike's loss. You hear it in their words. You feel it in their voices, in their bodies. And we are inspired by their relentless advocacy that has led to such transformative changes in our state. Guided by a simple message, and I quote, Not a single person on earth can change the past, but every one of us can change the future. I would like to quote Kristen, her words in 2018, and those words haunt all of us. And she says, "I am just beginning to serve my life sentence." A life sentence handed down to me because a gun owner who was too lazy to secure his guns and bullets, and Ethan is serving a death sentence. Ethan's death was preventable, and that, she says, will haunt me forever. My heart sang when Kristen found out that Ethan's law was going to get voted on last summer in the House of Representatives. She said the first person she wanted to tell was Ethan, her beautiful boy that she fearlessly fought for since the day she was forced to watch him, and Mike was forced to watch him be lowered into the ground. And upon hearing the news, she immediately drove to the cemetery. She ran across it yelling, and I quote, "Ethan, we did it. Your life-saving legislation will be heard. It will get a vote. And better yet, I believe it will soon pass." This bill honors the memory of Ethan Song and all the work his parents continue to do to create and to implement safe gun storage laws across Connecticut and across our nation. If these basic safety measures and consequences are codified into law, Ethan's tragic death and the deaths of so many other children could have been prevented. In 2022, there were at least 301 unintentional shootings by children, resulting in 133 deaths and 180 injuries. And research today from Everytown shows that an estimated 5.4 million American children live in homes with at least one gun that is loaded and unlocked. I might add, I think we're all struck by the vision we've seen on television in the last few days of a 6-year-old pointing and firing a gun in the presence of a parent. It is extraordinary that that is what is being fostered in some places. You know, the tragedies are preventable. It's why it's critical to pass Ethan's law, to make it the law of the land across the country, a law that will protect our children from senseless and accidental violence and deaths. Ethan would be 20 years old. A birthday should be celebrated. No parent should have to lose their child, especially because of an unsecured gun. But every parent should celebrate all their child's birthdays. I know this is not how Mike and Kristen had planned or hoped to celebrate Ethan's 20th birthday, but they turned tragedy into a crusade to protect all children. It is long past time that we join them. Pass Ethan's law. Protect families, both who own guns and those who do not. Mike and Kristen certainly made their voices heard here in Connecticut. We must follow their lead on the federal level. And with all of us gathered here today, I know that we need to get this done, and we will continue to work at it. Thank you for joining us here today. And now please welcome me and joining a partner in the United States Senate, someone who is a fierce advocate in the fight against common sense gun control laws, and that not only makes sense, but will save lives, Senator Richard Blumenthal. Senator?
Thank you. Thank you, Rosa. Thank you, Rosa, for those powerful remarks and for your leadership in the House, where you have really been a champion on this issue for so many years. I am always awed by Kristen and Michael's song. As a parent of 4 children, I cannot imagine having the courage and strength that you do, and you have our gratitude. You are the face and voice of tragedy, but also of the courage and resilience that it takes to lead a movement. And we have a movement. As Michael said, it's an army. The army crusading for gun violence protection has triumphs as well as tragedies. Here in Connecticut, safe storage is the law because of Kristen and Michael's song. 4 years ago, I stood on the green in Guilford and pledged to introduce Ethan's law in the United States Senate, which I did with the support and partnership of my colleague Chris Murphy, and we have fought for it since, taking Connecticut as a model of what can be done. And we came so close in the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act. So close. And I give Chris Murphy tremendous credit for his work. We managed to include the red flag statute, which I've advocated, and strengthen background checks, which he has championed. We've made progress. We've shown that we can break the grip of the NRA. The NRA is a shadow of its former self. That is the lesson of the Safer Communities Act. We can triumph over the NRA because the American people are with us. And they are with us because of brave, strong advocates like Kristen and Michael Song. All across America, millions of children are living in households with unsafely stored guns. They and their families are at risk of the nightmare, the mountains of pain, the rivers of grief that Kristen and Michael Song have endured. They are at risk of intentional and unintentional shooting. A video of a toddler swinging a gun around is now gone viral. It's on News Nation. These kinds of instances that shock the conscience and turn our stomach. Kids waving guns around because they are accessible is a nightmare for a nation that has too many guns unsafely stored. And that is the nightmare that we can help prevent. Michael is absolutely right. These shootings are not accidents. They are not accidents any more than drunk driving crashes are accidents. They are preventable. They are senseless, unnecessary. And Ethan's law at the federal level is going to come. And I would just finish with this thought. Congress failing to pass Ethan's law makes it complicit in those hundreds of shootings by children that occur every year. 300 or more shootings by children, literally toddlers, causing 133 deaths in 2022 alone. Congress is complicit in that bloodshed if it fails to pass Ethan's law. And I am more hopeful than ever because the Safer Communities Act shows we can break the grip of the NRA, which used to be in favor of safe storage. It used to be common sense for the NRA, as it's common sense for every American. And we need to make sure that we accomplish that purpose. So I will introduce Ethan's law again, and we will work, Senator Murphy and I and others. We have partners in the Senate and colleagues who will support it to make it the law of the land, just as it is the law in Connecticut. And I might just add, the penalties under Ethan's law are for unsafe or insecure storage. They are financial penalties, but they give rights of civil action based on negligence to individuals against anyone who causes harm as a result of insecure storage. And so there are rights to the American people, specific concrete rights that would result from Ethan's law. Proud to turn it over now to my colleague, Chris Murphy.
Thank you very much, Dick. Thank you, Rosa, for both of your leadership on this issue. And then let me add my thanks to the Song family. Connecticut's a safer place because of their advocacy. Like Dick, I really can't understand how any family dealing with the loss of a child can also muster the courage and the energy to advocate for change, to speak truth to power. But the Songs have done that. And there are children alive in Connecticut today because of the change that they sought and won. This bill doesn't take a single firearm away from any law-abiding American. This law doesn't prevent anybody from owning a gun who's obeying the laws. This bill doesn't ban any specific kinds of weapons. This bill is about promoting responsible gun ownership. This bill is simply requiring Americans to do a simple thing with a gun. If they have a child in the home, lock it up. Make sure that it's safe. This isn't a radical proposal. This isn't a controversial proposal. This is a bill that's supported by Republicans and Democrats, left and right, all across this country. And we need to get it done. We need to get it done because of those images people are seeing on TV, but because of an epidemic of children getting their hands on weapons in this country. Every single day, there is a child who is being killed by an unsecured gun. Now, these shootings might not be accidental in the sense that adults have allowed those guns to get into the hands of the kids, but they're accidental in the sense that these kids don't know how to handle the guns, they fire the guns, and people get killed. Every single day that's happening in this country, and it's a choice. This is a choice we make to allow this to occur in the United States of America. There's no other country in the high-income world, there's no other country in the world in which children are getting killed in shootings like this that happen in the United States of America. And what we know now that so many states have passed safe storage laws is that they work. Connecticut has a gun violence rate 400% lower than the states in this country with the loosest gun laws. That's not by accident. That's not a coincidence. That's because we have passed laws like Ethan's Law that have made it just a little bit harder for the wrong people to get their hands on dangerous weapons. And so it's not as if we don't know how to fix this problem of unsecured guns and the violence done by them. States like Connecticut have led the way and have shown results. Illinois is the latest state to pass a safe storage law. And so you see smart states are picking up this evidence and running with it. Lastly, let me just build on what Dick said about the moment that we are in. For the first time in 30 years, we beat the gun lobby last year. People said it couldn't be done, but we passed 5 major changes in American gun laws, every single one of them opposed by the gun lobby, but we got enough votes in the Senate and the House, just enough votes, in order to get it passed. Now, as the songs know, safe storage was on the table as one of the things we were talking about in those negotiations. And the House was putting pressure on us because they were lining up the votes to pass it. We didn't get it done as part of this legislation, but we were close. And I truly believe that we are going to pass safe storage legislation in the United States Senate, in the House of Representatives, that we're going to get a bill to the President's desk for signature, because I believe that we are now in an era in which the gun safety movement wins. For 30 years, the NRA owned Washington. But today, because of a movement led by parents and kids, Republicans and Democrats are realizing that there's no choice but to pass laws that are supported by the public and makes this country safer. That's why we got the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act done, because in the end, it was that movement that compelled Republicans finally to break from the gun lobby and vote for this legislation. And that will be the key to our success in this next Congress, to get Ethan's Law done and to get other gun safety measures that were left on the cutting room floor in 2022. So I feel privileged to be able to help Dick and Rosa carry this bill in the Senate and the House, but I also feel grateful that this movement that we have built over the last 10 years around gun safety, this national movement, which the songs are a part of, which Ethan's Law is a part of, has now arrived us at a moment where change is possible in a way that it wasn't for 30 years. Ethan's Law is next up. And I'm really excited to join this group to introduce this bill and to push it to passage. With that, let me introduce somebody who has been a tremendous champion at the local level for the changes we need in order to keep our communities safe, Mayor Elker.
Thanks, Senator Murphy. Let's be clear, Connecticut has been a leader on very practical legislation on guns, and that has happened at the state level with the leadership of Governor Lamont. The governor is going to be promoting some even new initiatives to help strengthen this legislation. And that has been clear at the Capitol, where Senator Blumenthal, Senator Murphy, and Congresswoman DeLauro have been constant advocates and at the forefront of this issue. And that is because of the courage of people like Kristen and Mike. And it's also, I think, very appropriate that we are gathering here at this site because of the courage of other victims of gun violence in New Haven. 3 women in particular, Celeste, Pamela, and Marlene, Marlene is right here. Good to see you, Marlene. Who have led the charge to create this space where people can congregate, victims of gun violence can meet each other, share their stories, find mutual support. And Marlene, I think you should feel proud that, in addition, this site is being elevated for individuals that are advocating for things that we are doing today around Ethan's Law and other legislation, so that we can protect not only the New Haven families, but so many other families that have become victims of gun violence. And I would encourage people to walk this corridor and look at the names of the individuals we have lost in New Haven to gun violence, and look at the ages. There's an infant where next to the individual's name it says 0 as the individual's age. Just yesterday, I was standing in front of the body of Charles Miller, one of 3 victims of gun violence just this year alone, and we're only in January. In 2020, in August, we lost a young person of 8 that could have been prevented had there been a safe storage of a gun in that young man's home, in that young boy's home. This is vital to the protection of our young people, and we stand ready. Ruel Parks, our new director of the Office of Gun Violence and Prevention, is here. We stand ready to advocate with you, alongside you, for the passage of Ethan's Law in Congress and many other efforts to help protect our young people. Thank you for your leadership and courage.
Chris, the Republicans getting the majority in the House, does that make it harder to have this get over the line? Or Rosa, does that make it, how does that affect the chances for hope that this could be the year?
You know, I like to be an optimist on these efforts. We were able to pass the bill in the last go-round, and the courage that Kristen and Michael, as I said, who went door to door, that's the kind of effort we have to make. You will get 100% of the Democrats who will do this. We need to find, you know, another few Republicans. I think they're there. I think the issue of gun safety and child safety is so critical. It's not a partisan issue. And you know, when you think about the NRA, and my colleagues spoke about that, you know, their support of storage was stricter than what is in Ethan's Law. They wanted the firearm and the ammunition stored separately, so forth. This bill says it needs to be stored, but you can store it together. So I think we have some. I think we have some opportunities. You know, I'm not Pollyanna. I know it's going to take the advocacy of all of us there, including the songs, but it's going to be the advocacy of people around the country. And that's where we have to have that external pressure on the institution. And we can identify those members who we believe would be would be interested in doing something like that. So we're going to take on the task.
In addition to finding those members,
Right.
does it also become harder to get over the line when the leadership of the House controls when things are voted on? And when
Yes, that's a fact as well. They can bring up, it's no longer true that we can just introduce it. So again, I never stop to think about what are the problems in getting there, but it's how we get there, and that's what we will be looking to do, is to be able to get it passed. It will not be for lack of trying, nor for the focus on what we stand for and who is there and maybe who isn't. But we are going to make the fight.
I'll just add, I think that's right, I'll just add this. How did we get 15 senators to vote for the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act? Some of them just decided to do the right thing, but many of them came to the conclusion that they couldn't win a re-election if they didn't vote for safe gun laws. This movement has altered the political reality in this country. And Republicans are coming to the conclusion that if they sit on their hands and do nothing, they're not going to get reelected in swing states and swing districts. So I think that new reality is sinking in for Republicans, and I don't think you can assume that just because the last time Republicans controlled the House, they didn't do anything on guns, that the same thing is going to play out again. The political movement is stronger. Voters care more about this issue than ever before, and that is going to alter the calculus that members make. Listen, it's harder now that you have these radical Republicans in charge of the House, but it is absolutely not impossible because we are just living in a new day.
It's a new environment.
Yeah.
It really
and
is.
I don't
they
think
say nothing focuses the mind like a death sentence. And is what Chris focused on, is that people are looking at their own opportunity for re-election, and that's why the external pressure on the institution is critical, with the advocates all over the country, demonstrating, because it's there, it's palpable. The country wants to see this, and they have to make their voices heard.
But
Sorry.
I think we can't risk sugarcoating the job here. There's no question it's an uphill fight because the leadership in the House has already shown its fallibilities. And the point here is that safe storage is the safest for them of any of the measures now on the table. No guns taken away, no restrictions on ownership, no particular types of firearms constrained. It is the safest of any of the measures politically that they could support. And so if they want to do something, and they have to do something politically, this safe storage bill is the safest for them, even confronting their right wing. So I think the political dynamic is very powerful here. And I do think that we've reached a point where gun violence protection is at a different level of acceptance and support. It is now ground zero for public safety. And from police groups to citizen advocates, I think we have an overwhelming dynamic in favor of it.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everybody.
Thank you.